One game we didn't talk about, Scott, I just wanted to give a shout out to it. We did, we're not covering every single one in here, but one that I think is going to be really interesting is this Bears versus Browns game. Joe Flacco's been playing crazy football. He's just out there saying, F it, I'm going to chuck it down the field. His air yards per attempt has been like the most from a quarterback this season by a lot. He's really just throwing it down the field. He doesn't care what happens. But the Bears have been playing really good defense as of late. Everybody's talking about the turnaround from the Broncos defense because that 70-point game, but the Bears were down there in terms of the efficiency stats too with the Broncos when they met up early in the season. And since then, the Bears have been playing like a top 5 defense. And I think the metrics show it's more sustainable than what we're seeing from Denver. The Montez Sweat trade really just changed the entire defense for them. They've been awesome, and they're starting to play well. And on the other hand, Browns' best defense in football coming in with the metrics, love them. But they are dead man walking, Scott. It's injury after Grant Delpit gets a contract out for the year. Mo Hurst out for the year. Denzel Ward still hurt. Zadarius Smith goes down. Amari Cooper is playing injured. Their tackles have had injuries. Nick Chubb is out for the year. I mean, it is crazy the amount of injuries on this Browns team. If the Browns make the playoffs, we maybe should talk Kevin Stefanski for Coach of the Year, especially with all the hoopla around that team with Deshaun Watson. But this is a matchup I'm fascinated against because it's a mash unit for the Browns right now.
If the Bears win this game in Cleveland, they are in the playoff discussion.
Yeah.
Back from the dead. Another team back from the dead. The Bears were, they started off 0-4. They started off 1-5 too. Then they lost their next 2. So I can't even count that many L's. 4, 5, 6, 7. So they were 2-7. They're sitting there at 5-8 right now. With 8 losses, that means their best record could be 9-8. 9-8 gets you a playoff spot in the NFC. 9-8 will more than likely get you a wild card spot. At Cleveland, if they win that, they come home and host the Arizona Cardinals. They host the Atlanta Falcons, and then they go on the road to Green Bay in what could be a play-in game for a wild card spot against the Packers.
That would be so great. That would be so great. Those two teams hate each other. Oh my God. I grew up in the middle of that, but Packers Bears, man, that is those fan bases cannot stand each other. And it's very much little brother, big brother syndrome.
So that's a good call. I think that becomes who's the little brother with Chicago and Green Bay? I mean,
Green Bay has owned Chicago.
Have they? Okay.
Oh my God, Chicago. I mean, you have Aaron Rodgers yelling in the stands saying, "I'm your dad," when he scores a touchdown.
What's the overall the Monsters of the Midway? They've been playing a long time. I'm curious what the all-time record is.
I can only tell you since I started watching.
Pretty even. All time.
Maybe in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s, Scott, and it's been Favre to Rodgers and embarrassment after embarrassment with the Chicago Bears. So I don't know what it is.
That's recency, as you're saying, but again,
that's 30 years. That's not that recent.
But again, there's been 207 games between the two teams as of December 4th, most in the NFL history. Green Bay is 106. It's 106-95 with 6 ties. So over the course of it, it's pretty even.
Yeah,
it is pretty even, but it has been one-sided here
for a bit
recently. I mean, the Chiefs could be saying the same thing about the Broncos. Through the course of history, it's been pretty even. That through the Falcons and Saints, the last 20 years is tilted really heavily towards the Saints, but it's been pretty even through the years. So really, that's a good shout. All of a sudden, they're good. The Chicago Bears were one of the most fascinating teams last year with what they had with draft picks and salary cap space. They've got the draft picks again. They've got a quarterback on the roster that could be a commodity, and they've got salary cap space again. So for the offseason, the Chicago Bears, especially if they start winning, the questions around what are they going to do are going to be fascinating.
An enviable spot. These are good problems to have.